Well, awesome. Welcome to the next episode of the Newfangled Lawyer podcast. I have Courtney Shulnick here with me, the host of the Conscious Corner with Courtney. This will be a collab. So, this episode will be a little bit different than what people are accustomed to. We're going to kind of flip the script, and Courtney is going to serve part guest and host, and I will also serve part guest and host. So, it'll be a very fluid, dynamic conversation, which I think will capture both of our personalities and how we kind of operate and occupy space in a very fluid growth mindset way. So, Courtney, thank you so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself, and then we'll start chatting.
Yes, it's a joy and an honor to be here. I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite some time, and I also have a podcast show, Conscious Corner with Courtney. So I'm really excited to make this a two-way street here and to have this time together and to share our conversation with the universe.
Yeah, in a very gentle, wholehearted, open way.
Yeah.
And so you say you've been following my journey for quite some time. W- What is it about, kind of, I guess, the messaging I have, my narrative, what I share that is something that caught your attention?
Yeah, twofold. First off, I have to ask, there is someone who repeatedly shows up in your feed on LinkedIn. I have to say he is the most, or I'm saying he, it may be a she, but he is the most adorable being. I'm taking him or her as your dog, your
Oh
pet.
yes. Uh-huh. Yep. Bear, my golden retriever. Hmm.
Okay. And I see him making appearance after appearance. I actually came into mindfulness when my dog, who was a Vizsla, Jackson, he passed away. And in many ways, he represented, without knowing what mindfulness was at the time, but he was, in essence, my my connection to being present, to
Hmm.
connecting with these qualities that really help us to grow and to find joy. And anyhow, I see that come across when I see these photographs of the two together. So I was curious to find out a little bit more about Bear, which I now know, and to see if he plays a role in how you live your life, be it
Hmm.
your personal life or how you carry yourself in the professional sector.
That's yeah. So, growing up, I didn't have a dog, right? My parents were not pet people. They would joke like, "We have you kids, like keeping you alive is enough." So we didn't have any pets growing up, not a dog, nothing. And the irony of it is actually now me and two of my sisters all have dogs. And
Hmm.
actually, my one of my younger sisters has two dogs. And so it's this really kind of provides a lot of insight, right? Of why do you choose to go take care of another living thing, right? I have kids.
Hmm.
That's intense in and of itself. And my wife, growing up, she always had dogs growing up. And we've tried a couple times to get dogs before. This is actually our third attempt.
Hmm.
The first two didn't work out just from where we are at in our lives,
Yeah.
um, right? Your level of commitment to something, right? I am someone who can kind of float around. I'm a Pisces. So I
Oh,
can kind of go from
my youngest son is a Pisces.
I, so this is
March
gonna
10th.
March 6th. So this is going to
Okay.
resonate with you.
Yeah.
Is like my focus and attention can very fluidly go from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
And but with getting a dog, um, we went and picked out the dog at a farm. It was the breeder's first time having litters, and they had two litters at the same time. Same dad, two separate moms.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
a lot of puppies,
That's a lot of
right?
puppy.
That's a lot of puppies for your first time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we go get the dog and pick him out. And then we take him home. And I never considered myself really a dog person.
Hmm.
But man, this dog has brought out some part of me that's like, and I don't like structure, but you need to have structure with a dog. You need rules with a dog.
Yeah.
You need attention,
Hmm.
right? You need to give the dog attention. And it's really brought about some amount of a cadence to my life. It's drawn me outside. It's allowed me to kind of be reflective,
Hmm.
right? I take these daily walks with my dog, and I don't have a smartphone. And so it's really just me, the dog, and whatever my thoughts are at that time. And so now he and I have been companions for now over a year on kind of this cadence.
Yeah.
Um, and right, like a dog chooses one person to kind of buddy up with.
Hmm.
And I never thought it'd be me, right? Like I thought it'd be my wife for sure. Like my wife's one of those people like walking on the street, like every dog comes and says hi to her. Um, and so for me, it's just been a practice in, yeah, like I don't want to say letting go, but you have expectations, right?
Yeah.
And like you have expectations of how a dog will behave. You have expectations in terms of, what your life will look like.
Hmm.
But you can't communicate with a dog like you can with a human. Like you can't be like, don't, like I'm telling you, don't dig, and they're still gonna like go dig a giant hole and then lay on top of it like nothing happened.
What, me? Who?
Right.
What?
Yeah. Who? What? I didn't do. Hey, you're not seeing a hole here. There's definitely not a giant hole underneath my chin. And yeah. And so for me, it's really just right. Slow. I would say slowed me down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and brought about some amount of like it's a meditative process, right? Your dog is only there in the moment,
Yeah.
right? The trainer was like, if you reprimand your dog for something they did 15 minutes ago,
Mhm.
they're like, I'm here now, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not
It's
15
true.
minutes.
It's
So
true.
yeah, I mean, no.
They're like the most they're the purest form of presence and unconditional love. And I was like you, like I consider you the chosen one. You were the chosen one by Bear. And even though our dog loved my husband, like our bond was so strong. And he brought out all these qualities where, yeah, I could have had just like a crappy day at work and I could have an endless list of to do items on my to do list. But those moments when we were together, just pure presence and overflowing love and joy. So I see that caught my attention, that radiates from your post. It's not something that we see all the time on LinkedIn, but even deeper below that, right? I don't even know, I don't want to say deeper because that's a deep love and connection. But what stood out to me about you is you're very successful in what it is you do and in the law that you practice. And I know we've discussed the type of work that you do, but what's different about the way you carry yourself, and I think it weaves its way into the quality of work that you do and the relationship that you have with your clients is you you stand very true to your values. I think a lot of times, as what I see, what I experienced a bit when I was working as a litigator, is you're expected to conform to a certain way of acting and doing and carrying yourself. And oftentimes our true being, it's like, okay, I'll get there when I have a chance. Like, hold on, let me just grind this out and spend a billion hours. And then we try to reconnect with ourselves outside of all this time we're devoting to the work that we do. And so there's a disconnect. And what I love about what you do is you stay very close to your values, and that filter that's very much woven into not only who you are as a human being, but who you are as a lawyer. I think that's a rare thing. I don't see that authenticity and that sense of connection and that groundedness carry its way day to day. Maybe moments, but not on a regular.
I mean, I appreciate that in the sense that, right, like I tell people, it's like I'm not driven by my ego. I'm not very externally motivated. Um,
Yeah.
and in any traditional system, right? Be it right the system we spend a lot of our time in for a great deal of our formative years is school, right? The
Yeah.
education system. Well, same thing. It never made sense to me. I'm not an achiever in the sense that like how some people who find themselves in the legal profession are achievers, right? I'm not perfectionist in the way that a lot of people that find themselves being lawyers are perfectionists.
Hmm.
Like I call myself a type C plus perfectionist. I'm not a type A, I'm a type like C plus.
That's a great place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like I always kind of had this attitude of, B is good enough. Like
Hmm.
you know, coming up, I went to a college prep high school. I was around a lot of high achievers.
Yeah.
Um, and right, some time along the way, I kind of felt as though maybe I was doing it wrong. Maybe everyone else had it figured out and I was just doing it wrong. Like I saw the world upside down,
Hmm.
um, and I wanted to be right side up,
Yeah.
right? Yesterday actually, my wife asked me why I became a lawyer in the first place.
Oh, wow. Where'd you
Yeah.
go with that one?
My wife is an insightful yogi, and she very much so guides a lot of my presence in
Hmm.
how I practice law, um, and live my life. And so she's been asking me recently in kind of this phase of my life of kind of figuring out like who do I want to be when I grow up?
Hmm.
Of like, does that serve you? What do you get from that?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
What was your purpose? Well, I rambled for about 15 minutes
Uh-huh.
and she's like, you didn't answer the question. I was like, I think that's the answer. I don't I don't know why I stepped on this path, other than it was the pragmatic choice.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought it was the safe choice. Um, but I'm not someone who plays it safe in
I
a lot of ways. So
but it's it's interesting because you're kind of deconstructing this way that we're conditioned to be within the confines of legal practice, law firms, and you're questioning things. I think that's that curiosity and being type, I think you said C plus, not type A and having to have everything be perfect, but that's such a sweet place to be because when we box ourselves in this perfectionism place and have to be in the rigid mindset of type A, we really do close the walls in on ourselves. So to that place of not knowing is almost like a gift to be in.
yeah,
That
I don't have answers a lot of times. It's like I just got done reading a book about creativity,
mhm,
and the author makes a delineation between intellect and creativity. High intellect is you have the ability to answer a question logically,
uh-huh,
right? You're a good test taker.
yeah,
You're really good at, finding the best answer given the facts and circumstances.
mhm,
A creative asks questions and then
mm,
finds the answers to those questions.
yeah,
And in our profession, right, the legal profession, you get celebrated for being the intellect.
Yeah.
The creative, you go, well, you're just asking all these questions. Why are you trying to shift the paradigm? Like,
Yeah.
who do you think you are to do this? And one of the kind of outcomes of showing up in the way that I show up has been surprising.
Hmm.
Right? What is the feedback I get
Hmm.
for being the way that I am in this very traditional, kind of unapproachable, stuffy profession?
Hmm.
Is most people the feedback is unprofessional, which is to me provides an answer of what does it mean to be professional. So what are your thoughts on that? What is it? What is professionalism in kind of this time and space where I think there's a growing acceptance that attorneys can be more like human.
Yeah. So I know there's the stigma to appear professional. You have to dress the part and the shirt and tie, suit, for a man, and maybe like the right suit for a woman, or the blouse tucked in just so. And I think on the surface that is what people think when they say, does he or she look professional? But I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's the way you carry yourself and the way that you treat people and the way you treat yourself.
Hmm.
And that to me is more of the real deal, the package of professionalism. Of course, due diligence and doing the work that needs to be done, and the way that you're not missing deadlines, but it's something that is deeper than surface level. Which, when I was thinking about coming onto this podcast, and oftentimes I'm thinking, how should I dress? What should I wear? I love that you're like me. You have a sweatshirt on, you have a cap, and so for me, that I feel like it's not about necessarily how you. It's important to come across and appear like you care, but for me, professionalism is a deeper level thing. It's more about your values, your character. Are you ethical? And I've seen plenty of successful attorneys who play the part. They have the fancy outfit, the nice suit, but all those core values, all those qualities that, in my eyes, make you more of a superstar in this profession. It's
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 like
deep.
how you show up when you're delivering your expertise,
Yeah,
right? It's not in just the veneer of appearance.
yeah,
It's in your presence.
yep,
And and you still have to, because that's the thing. You still have to deliver expertise.
right, right,
And you still, it's like when people, think about what does it mean to be professional, a lot of times they conflate that with um, like doing the right thing, which is true, but it's different than like your professional responsibility. It's different than ethics. Like you can be ethical and wear a backwards hat
yeah,
and talk like a normal human being. You
right,
can be both ethical and a yoga practitioner who practices law. Like those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
yeah,
But to go to your earlier point, a lot of people, what they end up doing is they go like, well, I can't be both myself and ethical. And you're like, what? Like
yeah,
how, what, how, that, or I can't be a zealous advocate and wear Air Jordans. It's like, what? You can't? Says
yeah.
who? Like, why not?
It's so separate, and one is boxed over here and one is boxed over here, and why can't we have a meeting in the middle and mesh them
Mm.
together and make that to me is what makes someone more whole. So you're not sort of tucking away these these values that are important to you and these qualities just to be a certain way or to look more professional, but how can you embrace more of your wholeness
Mm.
from the way
And
you
so how do
dress
you do
to the way
that?
you act?
How do you encourage people to embrace their wholeness in a profession where people are paranoid
Yeah,
that opening up your heart and yourself to others is like you're saying like here's my Achilles
yeah,
here's the break in my armor, like
yeah.
here come at me.
Well, the law can be a dangerous place to let your guard
Mm,
down. I learned that the hard way. I always grappled with, who I was outside of the courtroom was who I was in the courtroom. I didn't, granted, I wasn't a pushover, I'm a nice person, and it wasn't like I was going to get into the courtroom and say, oh, you want to do that? Okay. Like there were boundaries, but it's a difficult profession. I don't know that people are always willing to show their true colors. There's always something, not all, I'm saying always, but a lot of times I wanted to be like, who are you? Like, just let it out.
just let
And
it down. Just let and I in that and that's I think part of where I right now we're at this tension, right? Great things come from tension.
Mhm.
And you need a little bit of tension to take action. And I think this is part of why we're having a difficult time rectifying that with the proliferation of technology. Really, it's going to be that our humanity is showing. Like
Yeah,
the thing that's going to be sticking out is all the human stuff, the thing that allows people to see you as you are, to connect with you, to create trust. And this is historically not a skill set that's been really highlighted for the legal profession, is that you are a heart-centered, heart-led leader and you can
yeah.
show up as yourself. This is a skill set.
Yeah, and that human connection, sometimes it's a little kindness can go a
Mm.
long way, and it's not to be taken lightly. I've gotten burned at times where I've shown kindness to my opponent or, yeah, an attorney on the other side of the case. And to me, I wouldn't change just because there's one person who maybe took advantage of
Mm.
that. To me, I never wanted to become hardened. I wanted to practice self-kindness and to be kind to others. Again, there's boundaries. If somebody was taking advantage of it, then I had my secret weapons, but on a whole, I feel like it's a really challenging profession, and to know that we're in this together, and that other people just like me are struggling at times. So to hone in on that human connection, I feel like kindness can go a long way. And then just circling back to your point on, I think you said something to the effect that we can become a little bit paranoid with how we should be, or I forget how you framed it exactly, but I think that is just the problem, that as attorneys, our thoughts can drive us mad and we can make ourselves paranoid because we spend a lot of time in our heads, in our minds, coming up with strategies, coming up with ways to resolve really complicated issues in our cases and to help our clients. But in doing so, we we become disconnected from our bodies. So
Mm.
to connect more fully with who we are, and I think this is what it was getting back to, like how can we not have things be so separate? How can we be more comfortable with ourselves as a whole, so not having to separate the kindness or the authenticity from what we feel we should be? It's more feeling into the body and noticing in those moments when we're feeling a bit paranoid, when we're worrying about doing the right thing or fearing messing up, dropping down into the body and feeling the connection that our bodies make with the earth. That's a sense of grounding. And the more and more we can drop in more fully to the body, that's what allows us not only to connect with each moment, but to connect with ourselves and then in turn to connect with others. And I think that makes the practice more human than rigid and machine-like, which oftentimes that's what it feels like.
Well, it requires connection to self.
Yeah, 100%.
And
100%.
it's what I tell my oldest son. I said the scariest place you can ever go is within yourself. Um, that's a scary journey because you don't necessarily want to face your greatest fears, your greatest anxieties, your greatest doubts, maybe even your happiness, right? Your joy, because you can't be selective. When
Right.
you feel it all. And so one of the things you spend a great deal of time on is mindfulness
Yeah.
in sitting and being okay with just holding that presence. How does someone go about doing this in a distracted world? In the most connected but disconnected society that's ever been.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is a very distracting world, not to mention we call it the weapons of mass distraction. There's so much going on, and at any given moment, we can hear a ding, a bing, a ring from our cell phones, from our computers, and it can feel very distracting. And if we're not aware of it, we can get lost in the commotion and chaos of the world. So I actually just commented, you had a post earlier on LinkedIn, and I was mentioning one of the non-negotiables in my life is taking time each day to just be, to
Mhm.
step away from, I mean, I could list 50 distractions just looking at, 4:30 in the morning, all the things that I need to do. But if I'm not able to connect with myself and see what's here right now, even when it feels like in my comment to your post, I said sometimes it feels like a stadium full of people or voices. There's just so many pulls in so many different directions, but to be able to see that and to notice how you're relating to the moment or to a situation, or maybe it's your child, if we're not willing to see that and be with it, it's really easy to fall into reactivity. And when we find ourselves reactive day after day, moment after moment, we don't live a life that's aligned with our values, what's most important, and we miss out on a lot of the people and the moments that are important to us.
It's
So
like it's very ad hoc. It's like this comes in, respond. This comes in, you respond. This comes in,
yeah,
you respond. It's tiring.
it's tiring. We
It's so
we
tiring. We're
we
so
call
tired. We're so
it's ex
tired. Yeah.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and usually we're just running on fumes and we don't realize it until we hit a wall. That was my experience. I just was in the grind out approach, and it wasn't until I basically crashed and burned. But it doesn't have to be that way. Even though work as a lawyer is very demanding of our time, our energy, our minds, we can find ways to
Mm.
support ourselves, to see what's to your wife's point, what's serving us. Does this serve us? Is this not serving us? And that takes slowing down and noticing, how are we in mind, how are we in body, how are we in heart. The more and more we can get intimate with that, even when, as you mentioned to your son, it doesn't, it's not necessarily pleasant. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot of courage to turn toward what maybe doesn't feel the way we want it to. But without the willingness and the intentionality to notice that we're going to get taken on a ride, and not like a fun roller coaster ride. If you like roller coasters, it's going to take us to a place where, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we're going to say, you know, how did I get here? And is this the life that I wanted to live? So it's a gift. It's a gift to be able to strengthen our moment to moment awareness, because that gives us a sense of agency to create the life that we want to live, whether it's relationships, personal, or our work choices, which sounds to me very much like, you know, you're very much in the groove of that.
Well, I'm always questioning everything.
Yeah, that's
Like, why am I? Who am I? What is the purpose of all of this? Like, what is the greatest contribution I can make to my own life and to everyone else's life? Like,
when
I'm
you
not I'm not here for me, you know.
yeah. What is when you, and I know this isn't something you just figure out in a minute or two, but in this moment, as you reflect on, you know, what it is that you bring into this universe as you sit here, or what is it that you want to leave behind? Is there something that bubbles to the surface for you?
Yeah, I did this exercise recently. So I hired a burnout coach. Shout out to Ria,
Yeah.
because I kept burning out.
Hmm.
I never saw myself as a very intense person.
Yeah.
But several years ago, the law firm I was at had one of the founding partners became a coach, and
Oh,
so we all got coaching. It was awesome. It was like
yeah.
one of the coolest things. And she was like, "What if you just accepted you were intense instead of fighting it, saying like I'm not intense, just accept it.
Yeah.
You do everything intensely. You can leisure intensely, you can laugh intensely, you can
Hmm.
love intensely. You just everything. You just
Yeah.
like every, right? You live loud.
Yeah.
That's
Live loud.
okay,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so like as I've done a lot of this work, right, this self-reflection, this meditation, the trying different things, right? Trying on different ways of living and being and habits. I recently sat down and just wrote down like how do I want to spend my energy?
Hmm.
Not my time, but my energy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I want to be creative. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want to build something meaningful. Those
Hmm.
were the top three. And
Amazing.
so it's like now when I'm making a decision, it's like it has to check one of those boxes,
Hmm.
right? Because for me to make my greatest contribution to my own life,
Yeah.
it needs to resonate, it needs to vibrate. Not everyone, right? The hot thing right now is like what you do for your professional life doesn't have to be something you're passionate about.
Hmm.
That doesn't work for me. That might work for some people.
Yeah.
That just doesn't it's never worked for me. I can't. I'm an introvert. Introverts have a really tough time faking it till you make it, like putting on a facade. I'm really bad at that.
I
I
must be
just
an introvert then.
like we like authentic, deep conversations.
Yeah.
What happens when someone starts chit-chatting with you about the weather? Like, oh, it's a nice day today, you know? How's you watching the NBA finals? Like my brain literally starts turning off.
Yeah.
But if someone's like, let's talk about um you know, how is this a society we experience death? I'm like, let's go. I
Let's
could
go.
talk about
Bring
like,
it.
let's do this deep conversation. I just met you on the airplane on a flight to Chicago to my grandma's funeral. Sure, we can talk about that. I'm very comfortable having that conversation with a stranger on the airplane.
Yeah. There's more, it's meaningful, it's deeper, and I think what's coming up, the vibe of of our conversation is diving deeper below surface level. Like you, what makes you thrive is meaningful moments, and it's not just sort of fluff, but like
Yeah,
you make. the most of the moments of your life.
which is I'm gonna go back to my grandma. My was like the matriarch of my family. I have a lot of cousins. I'm Italian, my mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
And after her funeral, we all went to the pizza place we'd all go as kids, all of us.
Mhm.
And my one cousin, who's one of the oldest out of the giant tribe of us, was like, one of the things that Nani did best, like how she lived her life, is she was there in every moment and she enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's such a gift, right? She would go on a daily walk for miles, right?
Mhm.
She was there in that walk. She would take you out for your birthday. She was there in that moment. She was never a distracted person,
Yeah.
ever, ever. If she was there talk like with you, she was there with you. And I mean that's the life I wanna live. I don't yeah, I don't see the point of kind of just floating,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And just existing, which there's moments for that, right? There's
Yeah.
like moments for just existing. We don't always have to be doing or producing.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. It's it's yeah, being fully present. And what I've come back to, what I keep coming back to, and what has been kind of bubbling up from the surface lately
Mhm.
in this time of reflection is, what are the things that just bring me great joy?
Yeah.
Like don't right? It's like a love language. Like some people's love language is giving a gift.
Yeah.
Don't rob that person of that opportunity to bring that it brings them joy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Is that what are the things that bring me just unconditional joy? And it's two things that I keep coming back to is storytelling
Mhm.
and conversation.
Yeah.
Which once again, historically, if I looked at myself as a child, right?
Yeah.
I I would like hide behind my mother. I had social anxiety for decades. Had a lot of social anxiety. And over the last several years doing all this work, like my doctor's like, wow, your blood pressure is like normal. What did you do? Like, do you have anxiety? I'm like, not in the way I used to.
Yeah.
What changed? I think it's just the openness of conversation. We, we have almost lost the art of having a deep conversation.
Yeah.
Um, right? Everything is in an echo chamber.
Mm.
And it's like, so like even now, I make a point to like when I'm, let's say, at the coffee shop
Yeah.
and anyone's wearing a name tag, I call the person by their name on the name tag. Or like at Trader Joe's, I talk to the person and I acknowledge them by name,
Yeah.
which seems like that's obvious. But so many people don't do this anymore, right? You don't engage in,
Yeah. We're back to what we were talking about. We're so disconnected, and I think you're just speaking, giving a voice to our innate need to feel connection, to a sense of belonging. And through
Mhm.
conversation, we can see that we're really in this together. And that's powerful. That's powerful when there's so much that feels separate
Mm.
and device, there's so much divisiveness. I Even within ourselves, I love just going back to your coach at when you were at the firm, and your coach said, it was intensity or like,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, we become disconnected from ourselves like that's our baseline. When we can't feel a sense of connection and embrace who we are, it's really hard. Same with kindness. If we can't be kind to ourselves, it's really hard to extend that outward to others. So it sounds to me, which is almost more challenging because in the midst of the pandemic, I think it's hard to sense, we're
Mm.
beyond knock on everything, but to have done a 180 and to really work through social anxiety and to get to the place where you are, to me, it seems as if you were able to connect more closely with who you are, and through connecting more fully with yourself and accepting who you are fully, that allows you to connect with others. It's we often say that what we resist, whether it's our intensity, or maybe like I notice I have some impatience and I hate that about myself, the more and more we resist that or fight it. One of the teachers who I teach with at the Center for Mindfulness says it just goes into the basement, it lifts weights, and it gets stronger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and then you see it everywhere.
you see it
Yeah.
everywhere.
And it's like, hello. Hello.
Yeah, it takes over. And so that was your coach was brilliant in saying, okay, this is what's here. This is just a part of you, and can you accept it? And when we accept it as just a little, just a part of who we are, it's like we clear the pathway to move forward in really big ways. So I wanted to acknowledge that because I think that that was an incredible gift that your coach extended to you, or that allowed you to open some doors.
I mean, it's like Ganesha, who in Hinduism both is the one who creates barriers and removes them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we do this to ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And the very exercise of avoiding, let's say for me, my intensity,
Mm-hmm.
that was just another form of intensity.
Yeah.
I was intensely trying to avoid my intensity.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is, right, just like every iteration of who you are, right? Like some things can be highlighted, some things can be quieted. It's
Mm-hmm.
like how you turn up the dials and the knobs of yourself,
Yeah.
of self, and how connected you are to all the other selves and
Mm-hmm.
other people, right?
Yeah.
We are more connected than we know,
For sure.
right?
For sure.
And once you acknowledge that and accept that, you go, okay, well, do I recognize the person that I see myself as today?
Mm-hmm.
And I reached a point where I didn't. I was like, who's this imposter? God, this person's an asshole. I was like, this isn't me. I
Yeah.
don't feel like me. I don't look like me.
Yeah.
I looked broken. I felt broken. And I was just really numb.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, I was very hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people experience this,
Yeah.
right? Because you, right, either go by default or you have bad habits or poor behavior or right? We think we're lazy. No, we're not lazy. You're just giving your energy to something that doesn't align with who you are, who you want to be, your values, and then it doesn't feed you back. It's all
Well,
just put out and never returned.
it could be scary too when we're so used to just accepting that this is the way things are, and it can seem really overwhelming to approach that self-exploration. Again, it's not turning inward and seeing what's here, and and how we can live the life that we want to live. It's not for the faint of heart, but what a gift. What a gift when we can have the courage to turn inward. It opens us up to endless possibility.
You realize that a lot of the fears you have are not real.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like a form of exposure therapy. You you really come to have right the you build up kind of your data set
Hmm.
through experiences, right? Because you have to put yourself out there. You have to try different actions, right? It has to be action driven.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, at a certain point, your mind can only get you so far. It's
Hmm.
good. It's good to do the work. It's good to be in that headspace, but it has to drive meaningful action.
Yeah.
And it's not linear. Sometimes, some days, you're right. It's not going to go the way you thought it would. You're not going to show up in that day as your most aligned self. And
Right.
and the work also comes in just letting go and expressing that, like to yourself, to other people, saying, "Hey, I didn't show up in the way that I wanted to, that
Hmm.
I meant to, for you, for me, for a client, for whoever."
Yeah.
And it's messy. It's not like you have the answer. It's not that way. We don't know the answers, but
Yeah.
can't just, right, go to kind of it is what it is in the sense of I'm going to sit here and wow, we all have a choice.
Yeah.
Even though I'm privileged, right? I'm privileged in the sense that, you know, I'm a white dude and yeah, I can kind of show up how I am.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
everyone else has that privilege, and I've really been spending a lot more time acknowledging, like, yeah, I'm privileged to do this. I'm a highly educated attorney who I can
Yeah.
show up if I want to. At the end of the day, it's like, how do you create that, right? That community safety net, that acceptance. And it's hard because it doesn't just start with one. Well-being is not a one-person job.
No, and it can be messy, and and getting back to your point about it being actionable, we can become passive because our minds are so powerful,
Mm,
and they can be our best friend or our worst enemy if we buy into the stories that our minds often tell us. To your point, they're not necessarily true most of the time. We won't take those actionable steps that help us to get to really exciting places. We become passive because it can feel scary, it can feel messy. And so let's just stay right where we are. It
yeah.
feels a little bit more safe. And that
Yep.
that was sort of my experience at a point, and what really became almost like an internal prison. When I decided to feel more into the body as opposed to letting my thoughts and inner narrative dictate what I should do or what was the right
Mm.
thing to do, or avoid from making a mistake, messing something up. When we can feel into the body, it's like it allows us to climb. The way I saw it was like this tall brick wall that we could climb and get a peek, just like a peek over to the other side and see there's like this beautiful, vast green grass, and just it's just a landscape that we can't see clearly because we're blinded by the things we tell ourselves.
Mm.
So it takes a bit of
And we're so convincing. We're
we're
very
so
good at
convincing.
we're very good at
We're,
convincing.
yeah,
This is why we do what we do,
right.
is because we're credible and we can convince ourselves of these biases against ourselves
Mhm.
so quickly because it's all within our own head. There's no one who really, other than yourself, that can kind of displace or dispel these perceptions.
Yeah, it's true. What do you think? I have a question for you, just
Yeah.
talking about like actionable steps. Is there one actionable step that stands out in your mind in this moment that you think you or that you've taken that you feel or you think has made the biggest difference in your well-being or your workflow?
Oh. So I think for me, the biggest change I made, um, was when I stopped using a smartphone. Um,
Yeah, I heard you say that, and I was like, did I hear that right? You said that earlier in
yeah.
the conversation, and it caught that definitely caught my attention.
Yeah. And so, I mean, for me, that allows me now to like when I'm with my dog
Yeah,
or driving in the car
yeah.
or any transition moment
Mm-hmm.
where before, and what is societally acceptable is you check your phone.
Yes.
Um, right? I can ride a bike. I can go on a 30-mile bike ride
Mm-hmm.
and fully disconnect,
Mm-hmm.
right? That has been the single most radical kind of action step that I've taken. And it allows you to be hyper observational. You can't be distracted. You
Yep.
can't, when your mind starts wandering or a worry comes up, you can't just distract yourself and be like, oh, squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come to observe, right, is how this is everywhere, right? And people are missing out on some cool interactions with their environment
Yeah.
around them, with the people that occupy that space. I'm just going to go back to an example I had before. Is I was on a plane,
Mm-hmm.
flight, and I just read a book. I bring a book to read. The
Yeah.
person next to me was a lady probably in her 70s. Um, and we just talked the whole flight from the whole time. And we had the most like open, beautiful conversation. It turns out we had lived in several of the same places. One of her family friends, kids went to high school with my mom.
Oh,
And
wow.
figure this is like totally random,
Yeah.
right? She didn't right like live where I currently lived. She didn't actually even live in where my mom went to high school. Okay. It just came up organically.
Yeah.
And right, she then ultimately shared during our conversation that she had just lost her husband through he died by suicide.
Oh,
Right? And this
yeah.
is all just on a plane flight where very easily, like everyone else, what's the first
Yeah.
thing that people do when they get on the plane? Pull out their phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The second that they're like, you can turn on your electronic device. Shh.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is the first thing people do when the plane lands?
Calls, text.
It's unreal,
It is. It is.
right? As opposed to just kind of embracing that pause, that moment, you miss these opportunities that make us human, that make us alive, that really enrich our lives. And so I've just kind of taken that and leaned into, I chat with people at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And the kind of the hilarious thing about it is my dad is this way. And it used to annoy me. I'd be like, why do you like talk? He like his favorite Starbucks. He knew every single person that worked there. He knew like that the barista had an art show coming up.
Yeah.
And why? Because he wasn't afraid of having the conversation and finding a connection, right? My dad just the way he socially interacts, he doesn't have that fear piece. He's just gonna go and be like, "Oh, you like art from Peru? Well, I studied abroad in Bolivia and spent time. I went to Peru and went to an art museum. And this is how my dad operates. And I think it's just one of those things when you see yourself right in your parents, or what's the first thing you try to do is be like, oh, I don't want to be anything like that.
Yeah. Not gonna be like that when I
You're
get
like,
older.
"Oh." And then you realize, like, well, maybe that's the thing that makes me me.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
Thich Nhat Hanh writes, is like, we are all our ancestors, right? Like, as much as we want to say we're not, it's like that all lives within us. Everyone that came before us lives within us at some level.
Yep.
Um, and so this is probably a good place to wrap up is like, what has it gotten you in your life to be able to just do this, like dropping in and touch the earth and feel integrated not only with yourself, but with kind of the larger fabric of everything?
I sense into the interconnectedness between myself and all beings, not only what makes me, from an ancestry perspective, but really feeling the interconnectedness between everything that makes life as we know it. So it helps me to feel a deeper level of gratitude
Mm,
for the world that we're in. And it's grounding just to, I mean, this is something it's it's something so simple, but just to take off my shoes and go into my backyard and feel the sensation of the bottom of my feet making contact with the grass or the sidewalk and feeling that possibility of connecting more deeply with earth, with this moment, feeling a sense of rootedness. It's oftentimes that we're not in touch with that.
mm.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's quite simple, but something so simple has exponentially made my life that much more rich and vivid. So I would say,
I love walking in the grass barefoot. I love going
yeah,
and just like touching clay and dirt and
yeah.
mud
I,
and all the things that kids like to do. That's what we should go spend more time doing. It's before we had a filter.
Yeah, we should do our next our episode our part two to this. We'll just do some mindful walking. We'll show us slowly in the dirt or in the sand on the beach. I think that there's a lot to learn from that. But I love just circling back because I want to acknowledge it's such a radical act what you chose to do with your smartphone and how that allows you to really maintain this seamless continuity of awareness that oftentimes we fill our time up with distraction, with going to our phones, with going to our devices, and we miss out on so many opportunities, so many special moments, whether it's just what we see, the conversations we can have. So I commend you in that. That's a radical act indeed, and one that is
We can do it. We can all do it.
we can all do
It's
it.
not, you say it's radical.
It's radical
We
in
did it
that
in
there,
1950. No one had this. Oh,
yeah,
right. It's what was the distraction then? The TV, right? If
yeah,
not before that, it was the radio.
yeah.
Humans, we right the hot thing, and then we could talk all day. But the hot thing right now this year, I've seen it all over, is we're gonna have like a 1990s summer, like a disconnected summer. And I'm like, see, we've done it before.
Yeah.
We all did this before. Like our parents are just like, go, you would just be gone. I don't know.
It's
Like we would just be
it's
like riding a bike. I don't know, like going to the pool. No one knew where we were, what we were doing, or had an agenda or a plan. Or it was just like you woke up
I
in
saw
the
that
summer
this.
and you just went.
I saw this. I was just talking about someone about, and I really will stop talking so you can end this this episode. But I did see this, like, as someone who grew up as a kid in the 80s, we would just go out on our bikes. Our parents had no clue where we were, and it would be maybe when it started to get dark, we'd be like, okay, it's time to come home for dinner. But it takes, I think, now some deconditioning from our habits, and it's interesting to see what comes up for us as we break away from some of these distracted habits of ours. So yeah, you're inspiring me to keep the hands off my iPhone a
It's
bit extra.
possible. It's possible. It's like people are like, don't you miss texting? I'm like, not really. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I connect with probably more people now than before.
Yeah.
in a real meaningful way. Well, Courtney, this is a great gift, our conversation.
Likewise.
And so for anyone I usually ask one more question.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think it means to be a newfangled lawyer?
What does it mean? Oof. I that's a hard one. I think it is sort of breaking out of the confines of what we feel we should be
Hmm.
and leaning into what we already are.
Hmm. Amen. That
Yeah.
was it. Episode over. No further words need to be said. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.